Thank you so much. I'm going to copy that introduction. You introduced better than what I wrote myself. Today, I'm going to talk about a research that is recently doing, now it's not really mature enough yet, but I would like to get your comments and questions to make it better. It is about, first is family demography, and two is the relationship between work and family. And then also I am talking about the population health in terms of mental health of mothers and families particularly with children, young children. So let me just start. And this is about work, the new types of work arrangement. So here we know that today, I don't need to say much, is we have an in-person work arrangement and telework, which could be hybrid, means some in-person, some telework, and others are remote completely, the fully remote or telework. So a brief history of the telework, it could be seen as three phases. The first phase is from 1970 to 2019, very gradual increase, but rapid increase during COVID-19. And there we have a tripled increase from 5.7% up to 17.9%. And then the interesting thing is after the...
That's your clarification. How are you defining those percentages?
Yeah, the percentages are workers, not the families, the workforce, individual.
That experience some telework at some point?
In the last 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah, in a short period. Okay, so the interesting thing is a continuous growth post pandemic, because the pandemic lockdown require a lot of telework, and maybe we think that it will bounce back, but it didn't bounce back. So it reached to 23.7% according to Bureau of Labor Statistics. So the motivation of this studies is to seek the opportunity that telework provides, a very unique opportunity to link work and family, because telework is turning the family space to the work space. I would like to revisit the work-family relationship and identify the theoretical bridge between work and household production. The objective is to gain a better understanding of work-family relations in the post-pandemic work era. So the research questions in general is how does telework affect parents' functioning? And we ask specifically whether and the degree to which household production activities differ between teleworking mothers and teleworking fathers. Second is about mental problems that might vary between teleworking mothers and teleworking fathers. And to answer this question, we draw on three theoretical traditions. The first one is the sociology of work, according to the literature that, is about management control over workers. There are various types of control over workers, from personal direct control to scientific, management. And in sociology, we consider this kind of control is the most important working condition. Now, the shifts of management control to worker autonomy is important. Here, telework, to me, I understand as representing a shift at scale that grant workers with one kind of autonomy, which is a schedule autonomy. So to define schedule autonomy means to decide, workers have the freedom to decide when to do the work from home. The second tradition is coming to this household division of labor. And then telework and gender inequality, particularly focusing on this relationship in telework. And here the literature provide no consensus. Some posit that it will promote equality, others saying that will reinforce existing gender inequality. And the empirical evidence is also ambiguous. So the relationship among telework, stress, and mental health remain unclear in the literature. The third literature I would like to draw is called personnel psychology. And this personnel psychology is saying that the telework weakens workplace support, leading to a diminishing sense of community and an increasing sense of isolation. And then in this situation, workers are stressed out. And this kind of effect, I would say that important to point out is gender neutral. So I'd like to develop our own, this is a team of our own theoretical framework here. It's a further development on the three traditional theoretical traditions. This theoretical framework is centered on two key concepts. One is schedule autonomy, that is the ability to decide when to do one's paid work from home, and worker isolation, that is the loss of a full connection and support among colleagues, particularly for new hires. Right? Schedule autonomy and work isolation will affect parent functioning. So here is I try to link the work to the family. Let's see. You tell me how I do. So here's my development, my argument one. This argument saying that schedule autonomy to decide when to do paid work is the same for male and female workers. This autonomy is spilled over from work to home so that parents would have a greater ability to decide when to do housework. So here is from work, that's the paid work, and family will be the housework. So I state that teleworking induced the schedule autonomy spills over from work to home, helping with household production activity. I visualize my argument too in such a table or graphically. So the role, we have two kinds of roles, mothers and fathers. And coming from this schedule autonomy for mothers is a kind of empowerment because mothers take the major responsibility of housework and childcare. When it has the freedom to decide when to do, and particularly during the time you are working, should be working, you can do actually the really urgent housework, like take the child to see a doctor and to fix some of the household apprentice, and then you have to, can do that if you feel empowered. However, my stress, the father have been doing more, but still not the major responsibility of household production. So now you're working at home, you're expecting to do more, so stress. Okay. A lot of your fathers, so tell me, don't think that way. Worker isolation, on the other hand, would, stress out, the workers, both mother and fathers. Together combined, and then we'll see that the impact of the impact of telework on mental problems will be smaller for mothers, but larger for fathers. So my statement is mothers and fathers differ in the magnitude of the impact of the schedule or autonomy and worker isolation on mental problems. I have a third argument, and we're talking about this schedule autonomy, and it is greater for remote than hybrid. Of course, 5 days versus 2 or 3 days. All right. So, and then worker isolation is also stronger for remote, which is 5 days, and then for hybrid. So I propose there's a dose effect as medical, person to say the drug. It's a dose effect of remote work over hybrid work. So from these three arguments, I have 3 hypotheses. The first one referring to household production hypothesis, and we would say that the effect of the telework, it will increase household production. And the second one is about gender differential stress hypothesis, and here saying that the effect of telework is less would produce less stress for mothers than for fathers. The third one is the dose hypothesis will be heavier dose for remote than for hybrid in the buffer 2 hypothesis. Any questions? Okay. The analytical strategies like the traditional, statistical analysis. Here I compare association model with the corresponding causal inference model. So the association model is just regression, and the causal inference model is inverse probability weighted regression adjustment, IPWRA. This is, you learn a lot about causal analysis. So I don't mean to be experts in here. So let's talk about very interesting things here that I am very brave to use this data. You will know later on, I will tell you that the data limitation and the direction I'm going to do. And so let's say about the data. Source is called Household Pulse Survey, HPS. This HPS is starting from 2020 and then ends at 2024, and will going to be transformed into a monthly longitudinal survey. Still, it's different name. It's not the same name anymore, but it's the same kind of idea. It's to use the internet survey. So online surveys is only 20 minutes long, cannot ask a lot of questions, and then it's very frequent. So from 2020, at the first phase, they are doing every week and then become bi-weekly and then become monthly. Okay, so this kind of, survey that is provide near real time, the pulse of household, American household, livelihood, and the biggest real change. Yeah. So it is not great to a lot of people because it is repeated cross-sectional data, and but it is drawing independent random sample from the nation's household population. So each cross-section includes 70,000 households, represent 131 million eligible American households. So in this data, I pull data of 12 cross-sections from August 2023, which makes sure that's post-pandemic, and then up to the latest, wave is September 2024, and there are 12 cross-sections. So I put them all together. The basis is because the sample of each cross-section is totally independent, so that I can put them all together. And after pull, I can enhance the robustness of findings of post-pandemic work. There's all data on post-pandemic. So to define, the study population is American households with children aged 0 to 11 years old. And the respondents could be men or women. They are very likely to be the parent or guardians of the children. They are employed and age 21 to 64 without disabilities. This sample size come up with a number of household, all the respondents is 113,000, more than that, and the population represents 18 million American working households with children under 12 years old. So this is a particular sample. It's not the whole sample. Like Dalton was asking the beginning of the percentage. Those are all the workers. These are all particular households I'm interested in as American families with young children, and the parents are working. Okay, so the key variables are regarding to the treatment levels and outcomes. Telework arrangement is the treatment levels. At the household level, they have a higher. Household means you count both men and woman, husband and wife, or spouse, will be higher. But in this study, we are focusing on the respondents level. In persons is 68%, hybrid 16%, remote 15%, which added up is 31% higher than the individual workers, right? So you can imagine it's higher because there are young children over there. And the dependent variables are the outcomes. So one is caring for children while working on the paid job. This is a 0-1 measure. And then the mental problems is a composite of 4 items is the lightest items, and then I make it a standardized Z-scores. Covariance including education is very important, and use that to parse occupation and industry, that because a particular occupation and industries would allow to do telework, others might not be able to. And also the skills level and human capital level. Race, ethnicity, marital status for families important, is married or not. And we have children is also counting how many children, this is having children under 5, even more demand for care. And whether you have other adults than the parents in the household. And in the employment sectors, a home type is your own, your rent or mobile home. And previous income class is measured in 2021. And it's now we are looking at 2023 and 2024, and the regions and the time in month. So here I'll give you the national trends of telework of parents with children under 12. Here's so this trend is using the data that in this study. So you can see that it is a little bit, decline, in the very beginning, but basically it's pretty much, stable over time. Now it's a different story, right? All the rules are destroyed. Okay, so the remote is the orange, and the hybrid is the green here. I think I messed up the Anyhow, here's to give you some of the patterns of the telework of working parents with children under 12. So I have 4 kind of, patterns. And the first top 2 you can see that, so there's 3 modes, right? So you have in person and hybrid and remote, and they are similar, very similar, between younger and older, cohort, male and female. There's not much differences there. And by education, you can see is a big, determinant, conditions for telework. And then for race and ethnicity, you can see more for white and then more for Asian, even more. Asian. Clear? So this is about the outcome. So the outcome we have, this is my code, the CC job, childcare. While doing the job. Okay, so CC job is on here, doing childcare while doing work, paid work, and this is the mental Z-scores. So this one is for female patterns, right? So the idea is to compare, this is under the treatment, and then compare with the so-called control group. So here you see that the telework increase the probability of doing, childcare while working, and also, and on the other hand, and mental health, and it is here for female is a decrease their mental health issues. For male, you're looking at the same thing. Left with the CC job, childcare while doing the job, and here is the mental. The relationship is actually for male, as a father, so is similar. This is the increase over the control, and here is around 0. You don't see the in person, and then you also here is decrease compared to the in person. It is decrease, and that's also decrease, right? So you see my point. But this is a descriptive, patterns. You don't, it's not causal yet, right? Okay. The association model, we have, when it's separated for mothers and fathers, and for 0-1 outcomes, you use logistical regression. And then for mental problems is a continuous variable Z-score, so we use the OLS for association model, and then the IPWRA for logistic and then for regression. So here is the care for children while working by telework and gender. And Let's do, because I do gender separate analysis of a gender, left is female, right is male father. And then within you have left here, so logistic for caring for children, and then right here, WRA is the, you know, corresponding causal models. So you can see that because of using inverse probability weights, and then the causal effects become much more smaller than the one that you are looking from the association model. So here is smaller, yeah, so it's pretty much similar to between male and female. Any questions on that?
Yeah, are these all two-parent households and both parents working? No single-parent households?
Including single parent households.
This includes single-parent households.
I control for marital status, but I can't control for, you know, partnership. Question, you know, cohabitation, I cannot have a cohabitation. Yeah.
So you have single-parent and two-parent households.
Yeah, including both, yeah. Oops. So here's the mental problems. And the mental problems, again, on the left panel, it is for female and right is for male. And then you'll see that when you look at the hybrid, and the hybrid have no significant effect for mothers. But the, you know, remote will increase the mental problems. Okay. And then for male, and then both hybrid and remote have, you know, increased mental problems. And then if the size is much bigger for father. And this is the result. So sometimes you have the causal inference. This one is actually bigger than the association model, and this one is smaller than that. So it's not always smaller.
Is this net of your past outcome of caring for children while you're working? Is that, I would think that's a big pathway, being stressed out because you're caring for your children while you're working. So is that in this model as control?
The previous, I don't have the previous. This is asking, you know, in the last week, whether you are working at home, and then asking right now, are you caring for the child while doing work? Not directly that question, I combine two questions and make this magic. Yeah. So the first question is about, do you have problems in childcare? Yes. And then do you have a way to deal with it? And say that I am doing work and caring my child. So that's the two questions combined. I get this 0 and 1 measures and behavioral measure.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I think that like in a dad,
yeah, that
it would go from telework, hybrid or remote, to caring for children, to mental health problems. And there'd be a direct effect maybe also, but
I see. I do not
the stress is from having
coming from that.
the children while you're working.
I see. No, I haven't. Otherwise, and then I need to deal with the endogenous problem and put that on the right-hand side of the mental problems. That's a good, you know, pathways and to do that too. Yeah. Okay. But this is a separate two different measures. They are not related. So here is to tell you how the causal effects are checking on the overlap assumption. So you have the causal inference, we have 3 assumptions and have a conditional independence. And the second one, you have to have an overlap. And here is for male and female, you can see the overlapping for the in-person work. It could be the probability, could be from 0 to 1, and then you can see the blue is increasing to 1, and all the other 2 is very high on lower end and lower on the higher end. But this is not, this is, you know, overlapping to me is quite well. And this one is about the hybrid. It's also the probability is less than 0.5 with the maximum, and then it's a good overlapping. And then this is the remote is about 0 to 5 probability, the propensity score type, and then you can compare that they are all overlapping, could be offering comparison. And also check that the difference between the treatment and the control on covariance, and the weighted data is close to 0, and then the variance ratio is close to 1. It's a very good way of doing those inverse probability, and also regression adjustment. So controlling for those other covariance when we calculating the mean differences or the treatment effect. So here I'm going to show you then it is how about all the covariance effect on the treatment, how this treatment is being influenced by all the variables I could have, and then I can show you selected ones, and then the top one is about the outcome, right? So we have 3 steps in doing this inverse probability weighted regression adjustment, and this is the first step. Right, so you're doing the second step, and then you get the, causal effect on the third step. So here you can see that the, education play a very important role in, as I said, there's a pathway for their occupations and industries and the skills, and they can do telework, and then it's very important work in, doing this, to make it the condition of independence assumptions as a whole, right? So this is what it is happening. These are not, this one is significant, and this is total. This depends on whether you have adults or not in the household. However, in the outcome, after you do the inverse probability, you can see that there is not much, adjusted, still adjusted. Okay. Make it simple, not to adjust it still, but we get similar results. Okay, so this is for hybrid. So we are doing 2 levels of treatment. It's a hybrid versus in-person. Another one is remote versus in-person. So the next one is remote in-person. Similar, right? So you can see that to model this remote working at home, total remote working on home, and then education play a very important. So you can see all that results here. So we have male and female, father, mother, and then they are in the same representation here. So then I also carry on some sensitivity analysis, and then we have these other adults in the household. And these other adults might play a very important role, maybe grandparents are there. And then so then it's not like I already control them. So I have a variable called having other adults in the household. And that's kind of important in some way in the small thing, but the mechanism might be different. So I make it even simpler for those households that have no other adults in the household. And then that will, of course, reduce the sample size, and then but the result is robust for the larger analysis. So I report the larger analysis, including households having other adults at the household. Okay, that's that. So what is the hypothesis testing based on those outcomes? Findings. So for hypothesis 1, household production hypothesis, the effect of the telework increase. I call that household production because the caring child is the most important thing for household production. And it is the telework increase, and then this hypothesis is supported, is significant, even though it's a picture of it's not that way. Okay. And the second hypothesis is about doing the differential stress hypothesis, less stress for mothers than fathers. So we even find that it's an insignificant effect of hybrid modes for mothers. So this is also supported. One of those hypotheses we have a compare those for remote mode than for hybrid. And this is supported for mental problems only. That's not supported for the caring for children while working on the paid job. I didn't. Oh, yeah. Oh, hybrid is not full 5 days.
Remote is full 5 days.
Remote is full 5 days. Your work is completely remote. Yeah.
Because, have you ever had what kind of jobs and it's not a lot of time?
Oh, wish I have. This is a 20 minutes online survey, and they ask industry before, and then they cut that question. And then you ask anyone, no use, because only 20 industry really have no use.
How about the mental problems, like a depression or?
Yeah, that was four items. They have this anxiety, depression, feeling not interested in things, and feeling down or something like this. 4 really simple. Because that's 42 questions, but you can have that long. You have to, 4 is the likeliest 4 points scale. I made a composite and then make it score.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
These are self-reported or diagnosed.
No reported in the internet surveys. Yeah, like my big forum, with the mental health measures, and I'm going to, discuss also. Yeah.
Ask whether the families using like daycare for their children, just like what were like I'm not sure whether parents have the same definition about what do they mean by like providing, caring for their children while they're doing work.
Yeah, they have the question about, do you have a difficulty of arranging your childcare? Now, once you have difficulty, they ask a bunch of questions, including the one I use. Are you caring for the children while doing the work? So in person can caring for the children too. It's not like the only telework, but fewer, right? You can see much less. That's why we get by saying you need to inverse probability and make it comparable, right? So we do have like 8% of the don't come for me, but it's a small percentage, but it is, my sample is huge. So it's quite a lot of people actually caring for children while in person. So that's called difficulty in childcare. So no difficulty means that you can send the child out somewhere or somebody come here and then you don't need to pay, do anything to join my work in my office.
Or, when the question asked,
In the last 7 days.
oh,
Yeah. So most of this BLS, sensitive bureau question is asking very recent, you won't forget. So that's everybody asks that question. So it is, quite genetic, to compare with everything. It's very processor. It's really stuff, right? Snapshot things, and we are studying, and we say that, oh, why you study this? So that's something that is at this point. Here I have a hypothesis and I have this kind of, not in the 2 fully supported and 1 half supported. So the major findings, I would say that the household production activities, so telework increased the probability of caring for children while working for the paid job. This is a small causal effects for both mothers and fathers. Significant, discernible. The second one is regarding parents' mental health. For mothers, hybrid does not, while remote does significantly affect or increase the mental problems. My interpretation is the isolation problem, self-reporting diagnosis. Okay, for fathers, it's both hybrid and remote work significantly increase mental problem, and all this is just moderate causal effect and not that very huge. So those effects are only for mothers, for mental health issues. So we'd like to spend more time about this, data limitation. So I guess, if other people I was thinking about that. Do I use that data at all? This data is a very new type of data, and the Census Bureau and using internet survey and very short. Usually, Census Bureau do thousands of variables and that kind of high quality in person, knock at the door, call attention, answer my questions and that kind of survey. And this is whatever you do, okay? It's internet survey, 20 minutes, collect data. However, this is something that I think we should start to think about using this data while face the challenge. So let me tell you the data limitations. Tons of limitations here. I just say something here. One is the absence of household rosters. Household rosters even is really spend tons of time to say that who is whom. Those kind of rosters, and they spend tons of time and to ask that question is totally impossible for internet survey, only 20 minutes. So they are not asking who is mom and dad. So you can immediately say that, I don't even know that's your mother and father. I'm just calling them as a mother and father. And because I have a mitigation strategy here. So in the beginning, I emphasize a lot. This is a selection. I'm very careful to select that. So restricted analytic sample that maximize the probability that include parent-child households. So then in my sensitivity analysis, I even restrict it more and only have, if it's a married, I have 2 parents, and then if it's not married, I have only 1 person, so those kind of households. So it's a very maximized, the probability doesn't mean 100%, right? So okay, and then the second is you get shocked, right? So here is a very low response rate of HPS using internet survey, not because this is the problem of the Census Bureau. Census Bureau did a very good, study. So the highest percentage rate, the ideal, response rate is 9%. And I'll tell you why. Right, so because it's not sampled from census address, because they're not going to the address and knock at the door. What's the sampling frame you will guess they will have? You want to reach a lot of people. Internet survey. So I send you a link, you go there to do the survey, right? So what kind of sampling frame that they could use? Address will not be useful. Anybody? Did I send you email? Email address, right? So that all other places, the governments have an email address. Another one? Where's my phone? Phone number.
Phone number.
Phone
Google
number.
Ads.
Yeah. They only use it to.
Google Ads.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but they actually only use the phone numbers and email. So you see that if I change from Hopkins to person, that never happened. But my email address will become @princeton.edu. So I'm like, won't reach me to jsu.edu. I'm just, delete that one already and you move cities, you change it to the phone plan, you change the phone number, and this is so-called very fluid kind of sampling frame. It's changed over time. The time when you're doing it is not that frame anymore. So this is physically have to be lower. The percentage 9% is what they try to get. They only get 6%. You said, Lingxin, why are you using that data? 67%, isn't that your professor long time ago tell you, don't use low response rate data. This is today we face when using internet survey data, and there's just really low response rate. Okay, so 67 rate, and then when mitigation is using, so the Census Bureau spent a lot of time and then creating this, post certification weight, and that weight is really the 30 pages of technical notes I read through is really sophisticated. It's good. And then they also provide this balanced replicated balanced replicated replication, BRR, and then it's 80 for individuals and 80 for households. I can use that to sharpen my analysis, my estimates of the standard error. Sharpen a little bit. So that's based on accepting this kind of data and then do it in a statistical and survey methodology way to improve it. Okay. Now I want to advertisers still have a study strengths and still have a strength because I have this. I would consider this as the normal contributions to literature. One is theoretical reasoning of why telework may affect parents' functioning and trying to link theoretically using the schedule autonomy, spillover from work to home, and the most, intimately to link these two institutions together. I think it's one of the strengths. And then we use near real time and large scale data. And then usually when I do the survey using survey data and doing research using survey data, people immediately tell me, data in 2005. Oh, this is why I say, no, this is last year, September. But yeah, so this is a very recent timely data, and then finding is robust every year, but there's not big problems in the measures. Okay, I would like to talk about the policy recommendations just given, stay with me, given that this is still a good contribution. Then when we develop the policies related to telework, it is essential to consider the impact on the family, and then policy could be effective if we address the differential challenges facing mothers and fathers. Okay, looking ahead is telework, and now the things is different. We have a policy frustration, including telework regulations today, creating tensions, and then just everything is up and down. But telework still is a part of the future of work. The reasons of that because the continuous advancement of telecommunication and cyber security. So that could be just making telework is more and more, possible. The other is very, very important is to a lot of use of AI in various jobs. Workers have to reskill, and after they reskilled, more and more workers will be able to work at telework because you control AI robots, you can be at home controlling the robot. You could even be in a foreign country to control the robots, for example. So telework is some important features of the future of work. So I would like to study this topic because it's leading to the future of work. Now, I submit 2 minutes. So to looking ahead of social surveys. Now, I want to use this survey. I hesitated a lot, but still using it. Spend a lot of time and then working on that. So survey methods right now is more and more moving to the internet, online, web survey. It's permanent today in marketing, in organizational research. There's a lot of things in university. You see tons of surveys and through the deans and the provosts and all that is, how many minutes? Probably 5 minutes survey from you guys, right? So so this pulse survey actually, many when I read the documents last year, the 15 federal agencies and actually using HPS data to create their statistics, and based on those statistics, they make policies. And it's already used. So this is being used by, the government. And then there is, the problem of this kind of survey, so I want to emphasize this, is the disengagement of respondents in digital surveys. So it's not face-to-face, because face-to-face, I can always call respondents' attention. The interviewers will do the job to make the attention happening. Here you cannot. So then you have inaccurate coverage due to I was talking about the sampling frame, and then they have so fluidity, and then all that, and then you have a low response rate because they just say, oh, I got to do something, I just quickly finish it or just show it, submit it. Okay, the inattention is sacrificing, and then so you so satisfying. So you are just doing the answers will be, oh yeah, about agree, just circle that's kind of question. So you have bias in the self-report answers, and then you have a high item missing rates. And these kind of problems compounding together make the traditional multiple imputation by chain equations are inappropriate. So what we're going to do in the improving social surveys in digital age, this is something I would like to move to and starting, building teams and then to handle the problems. For the presentations, of course, we can, help, following Census Bureau's way to produce sophisticated post-stratification, reweighting, and the BRR things. But then we also need to have attention, checks, and then utilize these attention checks in handling missing data. For example, HPS, public use data have a -99, saying that questions seen, but categories not selected in HPS. So that means that this person is paying attention, reading the question, does not want to answer. Now, the other missing is just skip it, then even capture whether the person is reading the question. So you have this -88 and -99 would be a different behaviors, and these different behaviors could be used to do that. So I am thinking along the way is to develop novel alternative methods to handle missing data as my first step. Is to account for measurement errors as well. So thinking about creating AI twins for individual respondents and noted with the experience and the many hundreds and thousands of variables representing this individual's respondents' past experience, attitudes, and behaviors to this LLM agent. This LLM agent could be, based on that information and then to make the prediction of the missing item. And that kind of things you do many times, you can measure the uncertainty, and this is just general idea of the way to go. And go further, we'll have, to measure to measure the measurement error, the degrees and directions, and then ways to get the prediction as closer to the ground truth. So that's something that I would thank you for your attention, and then I would be very happy to answer questions.